If you are in Alabama and you're looking to start a cottage food business from home, well, then this video will help you understand the basics of how to get up and running. So we're going to get started right now. This is Damien from Marketing Food Online, and I hope you are having an amazing day today. So what I wanted to cover in this video is an explanation of what it is allowed to be sold in Alabama. The great state of Alabama has a fantastic cottage food law on the books, and it allows you to create food products from home that are of non-potentially hazardous ingredients and preparation. And that is actually going to open up the door, though, to a lot of different food products that can be made with huge profit margins, and you're allowed to make up to $20,000 a year. So as a part-time side business from home, this is a great opportunity for food entrepreneurs who want to get into the cottage food business, and a sample of what it'll take to run a food business and then grow that into a commercial facility, or you even utilize in a commercial kitchen and then be online or get your products in retail stores. There's so much opportunity, especially today with the internet and selling products online, that getting started from home is a no-brainer and a great idea. So you're probably thinking, all right, sounds great. What can I make? And then what are some of the rules? What are some of the regulations? Let me know. So to get started with really quick, if you're not a subscriber to Marketing Food Online, hit that subscription button, that red button down in the bottom corner, and make sure you hit the notification bell, because we have tons of videos every week and even podcasts. You can check our podcast out, and we've got tons of great resources to help you along the way. So let's get started. So the great thing about Alabama's law is the fact that you're allowed up to $20,000 in sales a year, which is fantastic. Like I mentioned before, it may not sound like a lot, but to tell you the truth, when you're starting something on the side and you want to do it part-time, and maybe on the weekends you're hitting fairs, festivals, flea markets, or farmers markets, local venues and such, it is a good way to make additional money. Plus, you get a taste for what it really is like to run a food business from home. Now, we're going to start off with the types of food products that are allowed. Now, you need to understand something. It is not something like a restaurant. When you talk about a cottage food business from home in the state of Alabama, that is not exactly what you want to look towards making. If you want to start with like restaurant food, that's something that's normally considered potentially hazardous, because those types of foods, pastas, like you're making a dish, or if you're making meat or seafood, or if you're looking to make food that is considered to be restaurant-style food, that is a totally different type of business. That's not what's allowed through the cottage food law. Traditionally, it's going to be items that are non-potentially hazardous, as they're known, such as trail mixes and cookies and bundt cakes and candies and those types of things. But to be honest with you, it's actually quite a big list of products. And if you wanted to dabble in some of this first, like I said before you invest a lot of money and time and effort into creating something in a commercial kitchen, it's great to do it from home. So things like cakes, brownies, donuts, rolls, and scones. When it comes to candy, you could do chocolates and fudge. You've got brittles, for instance. Nut brittles are hugely popular. Even cookies, pizzelles, and those types of things, sweetbreads. You can go through a variety of pastries, as long as they're not with cheeses or something like cottage cheese or cream cheeses, where it has to be kept at a certain temperature. Remember, it can't be something that has to be time or temperature sensitive, where you can't make that. Now, there is a few guidelines that the state, and remember, keep in mind also, cottage food laws are set up by the state. Now, when you're in a certain municipality, like a city or a county, they can actually write additional ordinances or other rules or regulations that will also be in addition to the state laws, okay? So if you're in a certain city, you got to make sure that the city within the state of Alabama allows it, and make sure that there's no zoning issues, make sure there's nothing that's going to go against the laws or ordinances set up by the county, because they could potentially actually not allow it, and they could outlaw that, or in a certain city limits, they don't allow it. So you want to check with your city. And you can actually contact them. I'm going to leave you a few links in the description directly to Alabama's Cottage Food Law page online, so you can inform yourself even more and kind of learn a little bit more about it. But do keep that in mind. So the state, county, and city, they all got their kind of have their hands in the pot, and they can kind of create laws as they see fit. So Now, we've gotten through some of the foods that are allowed. You can also do herbs and pies. Spices and seasonings are a big one. Specifically, I say that because they're really easy to make. They're very inexpensive to get in bulk. And the margins on spices and seasonings are just amazing. So if you're looking to start a spice business and you want to learn how to do that, definitely doing it from home is a great way to get started. So another thing that you're allowed to do is the nuts and seeds, granola, popcorn, kettle corn, which is huge during the fall and winter seasons with a lot of holiday events and such. Every state has those, of course. Those are huge money makers because the profit margin is gigantic. And the investment to do that is very, very low. Now, some of the prohibited foods, things that are of a certain pH level, acidic foods, pickles, caramel corns, sauces, and juices like beef jerkies, those types of things. As we mentioned before, salsas even. Those are something that's prohibited because the pH on those is very tricky to get right and get correct. And they want to make sure that those things are done in the right, like a commercial kitchen with the right licensing and the right training, because they can become very dangerous for certain people when they are not prepared properly. All right, so I want to get into some of the other limitations that are set up by the the Alabama Cottage Food Laws. And some of the restrictions are as follows. Now, these would actually pertain to basically the production of the food product. And that would be like in the area that's dedicated to do this, children are restricted. So you don't want to have children running around or in the vicinity when you're operating this. If you're making batches of products in your home kitchen, children are restricted during that time period of doing that. And you also, what I would highly recommend you do as well, and I recommend this on all my videos about cottage food businesses, specifically now we're talking about Alabama's, is that you want to dedicate a certain group of equipment within your kitchen solely for the purpose of creating food products. So I personally would even invest, if you could, invest in a set of utensils, pots and pans, whatever the product is, whatever type of equipment it would call for it to make that, I would dedicate that to it. Reason why is you don't want to be kind of cross-using kitchens, pots and pans. This is only my opinion, and actually in some states it's required, but specifically just want to set aside those types of equipment and use it specifically for your business. Now, commercial equipment is prohibited. So in your home kitchen, you can't bring in gigantic commercial bread mixers or dough mixers, for instance, commercial ovens, those types of things. Nothing commercial in that size is allowed in your kitchen. And that's really for safety reasons. Those types of equipment actually require certain types of electrical outlets, and you normally don't have those in your home kitchen. Now, direct sales. This is super important. Direct sales only. What exactly does that mean? So when you produce your food product, you have to transact that with your customer. You would need to sell that directly to the customer if it's at a farmer's market and so on. You can't be selling it to like a restaurant who would turn around and resell it, a retail store who then takes it, puts it on their shelf and sells it to a customer. You have to be the one that sells direct only. That is the only way that you can do it when you're first starting. The other thing that's prohibited is pets. Of course, this is kind of a no-brainer, but when you're preparing food products for other people to consume, you don't want pets in your home kitchen. That's just kind of a no-brainer there. Employees. Now, the trick and the challenge to running a home-based business is you have to be the one doing it. You're actually not allowed in the state of Alabama's Cottage Food Law. You cannot have employees in the kitchen or hire them to help you do it. You also need to utilize your primary residence. So if you have a neighbor down the street who said, hey, you can use my kitchen on the weekends, and you say, sounds great, I want to do it under the Cottage Food Law, that's something you have to be utilizing your primary residency. You need to be doing it from there. Okay. The other thing would be the sales limit, as I mentioned before, but it's still at $20,000 a year in sales. And again, a great opportunity to get started and to get your feet wet in the business of creating a food product. Now, sampling is prohibited. So this is kind of a challenge. When you go to farmers markets or you go to a local venue and people want to try a product, sampling technically is not allowed to happen under the Alabama Cottage Food Law. So normally also the packaging of the product has to be done prior to when you bring it to the event. So they don't want any open-aired products. That's going to be under a different type of business. If you're wanting to get a concessions booth or get a trailer, where you're going to create something that you're going to drive there, that was a different licensing. That's a totally different thing than cottage food. So you can't necessarily be sampling products at venues when it comes to that. And what I'll have down below is a handful of great links that are going to give you much more information than what I'll cover here. I just want to cover some of the basics and give you a great outline to get started with. The other thing that you're going to have to do that the state requires is a food safety course. Traditionally, those types of courses, they're going to run probably anywhere from $20 to $50, depending on the state, but normally nothing more than that. And they're great, actually, because they're going to educate you as to how to handle food, temperatures, taking products from your place over to from your kitchen over to like a venue. What exactly is involved with that? So it's a great outline. It's a great educational course, and it's going to help you out. Now, after you take the food safety course, you must also submit a form that's going to give you a sample label, with a sample label of your food product. Basically, the information that'll be required to have on your food, and then you'll get a course certification. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind is you have to collect sales tax too. So this is going to be a legitimate business. And like I said, this is not kind of a hobby thing. It's going to be a business where if you transact, you need to collect sales tax and then submit that to the state on behalf of those taxes. So you've got the city, county, and state, and they'll determine how much tax specifically in your area that you would need to charge. Next up, we're going to talk about really quick, and I'll wrap it up, and I'm going to give you all these resources down below, is going to be the labeling. And this is super, super simple. That's one thing about Alabama's cottage food law compared to other states, that their labeling requirements are relatively simple and basic, to be honest with you. So the one thing you got to have is the business address. So if your business is obviously operating from home, you have to have that address on there. Now, a lot of people don't like to put their home address, but it can't be a P.O. box. It really has to be the place where the food product is made. And there's a reason, and I'm going to explain why. Most of the reasoning behind that is that if someone were to get sick, or if there's a complaint, or if there's an issue with the food product, they need to have a traceability, an aspect known as traceability, where they can trace it back to where the origin of the product. Where was it created? Where was it made? And if it was made in your home and they have to check it to make sure there's no bacteria or somebody got sick, whatever that complaint that could potentially come up is they want to know where it's made. So that's the real reason. Everyone wants to keep everybody safe, and that's the reason why they put the address on there. Now, your business name also needs to be on the label. So if you come up with a really great name, if it's Sarah's Chocolate Chip Cookie Factory or something, that needs to be on there as well. And the product name. So if it happens to be a bag of granola, if it's a certain type of product name that you've come up with, like Granny's Granola or something like that, that needs to be on there. So the name of the product that you've created needs to be on there as well. Now, the other thing, and this is the most important aspect, is basically a disclaimer statement, as it's known, stating that the product was made in an uninspected kitchen. Okay, so this is something that happens in a lot of states, and you got to have that on the label. So most states have a specific statement that they want you to use, and that can be found on the sample label, and that information is also on the website, and I'll put some links down below, and you can take a look into that. But the information needs to just basically let people know they're buying a product that's made in a home kitchen that's not inspected by the state. So some states do inspections, and some states do not. Also, do not make it mandatory to have those inspections as well. So with that being said, I want to wrap it up really quick. I just wanted to give you a basic outline of what you can do, how much you can sell, and all these good tidbits of information for the state of Alabama. So I'll put some links in the description. Take a look at it for yourself. And if you've got questions on the information I presented tonight in this video, please do let me know. Ask me some questions down below. And I will see you guys on the next video. Take care.